It's our pleasure to welcome now the congressman who represents Mississippi's 1st District. That would be Representative Trent Kelly. Congressman, how you doing today, sir? Thanks for coming on.
I am good. Great to be on again. Thank y'all for having me.
Yes, sir. Didn't get a chance to shake your hand and speak to you last night, but enjoyed your remarks at Good Old Boys and Gals. That was quite the event, wasn't it?
Isn't that a great event? And, I'm so glad they carried that on after our friend Johnny Morgan passed away.
Yeah.
It was great to see everybody there. Great venue, one of the great political venues in Mississippi. So I was very proud to be there, and it was a great event.
I would say, Congressman, unique in the country.
It really is, and Johnny put that together. And I just, like I said, there's nothing like it, but it's got to be one of the largest events that's just ad hoc in Mississippi, if not the nation or Southeast.
Yeah. And, one of the things you take away from that is Mississippians care a lot about what's going on in their state, in their country. That's one of my takeaways for sure every time I go to that event.
I know, and we care about politics, and that's so great because you get them from local aldermen and councilmen and mayors and supervisors and circuit clerks. It's everybody.
No doubt. All right, we're inside 2 weeks. Man, it's hard to believe. It seems like it's been running at warp speed. How do you feel? I feel pretty good.
I do too, but I also feel kind of like Jerry Clower, man. Somebody just shoot up in amongst us, man. Somebody's going to have some relief. I am ready to get this over with. The suspense is killing me. I feel really good, as much as you can with polls. I don't put a whole lot of stock in these national or other polls. Sometimes they're just not as accurate. But the fact that Trump is leading or even in a lot of these places when normally he would be 3, 4, 5% down, it makes you feel good. We've just got to make sure people have got to vote. They've got to go have their voice heard, and so and they got to vote for Donald Trump because, listen, we really don't have an option at this point.
Yeah. And, the attitude about early voting, Congressman, is really kind of pivoted somewhat in the Republican Party, Republican national leadership, state leadership, encouraging people. Make sure, because you never know what might interfere with your ability to get to the polls on Election Day. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy to do. We even allow it here in the state of Mississippi. You have to have an excuse, but honestly, it's a pretty simple task. It's not a very burdensome task to go ahead and vote, and we're seeing that happen across the country.
It is, and listen, whatever the rules are, you've got to play by.
Sure.
And if early voting is allowed, it's not fair to the Republican Party for us to try to vote on one day when they're voting for 30.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure we turn on our voters and do it the right legal way. But I don't care if you vote 30 days before, 2 days before, on the day of election. It's essential that you get your vote cast. Otherwise, you don't have a voice.
Yeah. Well, just looking across those handful of battleground states, the polls for the most part are within the so-called margin of error. But that's got to be problematic for the Harris campaign because both in 2020 and in 2016, Trump was actually behind in those polls. He's in a better position right now in this 24 cycle than he was in the prior two.
I agree, but I really wish you guys would get the vice president on to talk because, number one, she would have to take a day off to prepare for your interview. and then when she did it, man, we just need her talking without talking points because the more she talks, the better we do.
Do you feel like, Congressman, that we said this earlier in the program, that as time progresses, the more exposure she gets, it's actually playing against her rather than for her?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, she has no plan, and she gives very vague answers, if at all. She wants to give feel-good answers or either I hate Trump and the end of democracy is coming. And, what amazes me is this is a person sitting there who got a nomination for a major political party in the United States without getting one vote.
Yeah.
they disenfranchise millions of voters, and yet they want to talk about we're going to destroy democracy. I think that's destroying democracy.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. So how do you feel about the House? What is Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and your counterparts? What are they? What's their view of remaining in control of the House?
I feel really good about it. And, Mike Johnson's been all over. Steve Scalise's all over. My friend Morgan Luttrell was out in California yesterday. I've been all over and helping people in a lot of these swing districts. We feel good. We're putting money in the races that we have a chance to win. We've got a great message. And Trump's going to make sure that the turnout's there. So I feel really good, and I feel really good about the Senate, too. I think we've got a chance to pick up and maybe even have 52 or 53 in the United States Senate, up to 54. And that makes me feel good. And we've just got to win this presidency so that we can have 100 or 200 days to get some things done and changed and get us back on the right path.
Well, one of the things is, as you well know, Congressman, has frustrated many Americans, including here in the state of Mississippi, is we can't seem to get this regular order approach to appropriating spending going. We got a temporary CR that gets us through the end of the year, but when you guys get back after the end of the year and you get back in January, starting with a new Congress, are we going to get back to regular order? Do you feel like we can do that?
I would love to say that we are, but literally we have got to put pressure on these guys. Listen, I know what the deadline for funding next year is, September 30th.
Yeah.
In 2026, it is September 30th. In 2029, it's September 30th.
That's right.
And why they can't figure that out and get it done by September 30th, I have no idea. And we've got to quit spending so much money. I mean, there are things that have to be funded, like defense, and there are a lot of good programs. But listen, there's so much stuff in there that we don't need, and we have got to make sure we can't continue on the deficit and debt that we have. We just cannot as a nation. It will hurt us.
Do you support Mr. Trump's idea of bringing on Elon Musk to really go through the federal budget with a fine-tooth comb and eliminate a lot of this waste, fraud, abuse?
I am absolutely for that. Let me tell you, Elon Musk, like him or dislike him, I think he's been pretty successful. and if we can have someone look at that, and listen, there are so many sunset programs and money that is being appropriated to somewhere different, programs that have expired or gone away, and that money's being spent on something else. And there's just a lot of waste and a lot of fat that can be cut.
Yeah, it's time, honestly, and it to this point, it just doesn't seem like there's been a great deal of effort invested in that. And I think Mr. Trump's on to something by bringing on someone from the private sector to head up that process and that effort.
Well, you know how the bureaucracy works, and we keep going bigger and bigger as a federal government, and we need to stop that. We've got too many people, and listen, you don't need to fire a person. What you do is when people leave, you don't rehire that position.
Sure.
And if you did that, you can't imagine the billions we'd save, because we just have such a workforce. I mean, think about this. When they actually have a shutdown, they go, only essential people come in. Well, if you're not essential, you probably don't need a job with the federal government.
Anything, Congressman, that you're going to work on when you guys get reseated there in the Capitol?
Well, I am right now. I've got a farm bill. Listen, the Farm Act that I'm trying to get, I've got, I think, 48 co-sponsors on it right now. Our guys in cotton, soybeans, peanuts, corn, everything, they are taking a bath just because the input costs and inflation that this administration has created. They're taking a bath in almost every crop. So I'm trying to get those guys some extra help and relief before the end of the year, because if we don't, they're not going to be able to get the loans, or they're going to go so deep into their equity, they're not going to have crops next year. And we don't need to add a food shortage or a clothing shortage to all the other issues that this administration has created. Commissioner
Gibson talked about that last night. I know you heard him, and he said that there are a lot of them that are subject to just shutting down their operations if something isn't done.
They are. You've got, a lot of those guys are older. We love our young farmers, but a lot of those guys are older, and they're facing a choice this year of, am I going to give up all the equity I've earned my whole life and not have it for my kids to take a chance, or some of them just can't get the credit or won't be able to get the loans and won't be able to do a crop. And listen, we don't need to lose our farmers. So I'm not for handouts or give outs, but these guys bust their tail. It's not a product of what they've done. It's a product of what this administration has done to fuel prices, fertilizer prices, interest rates. I mean, you name it, everything has gone up. I don't see how anybody can say they're better off today than they were 4 years ago.
Congressman, appreciate you joining us here today on Middays, and we're hoping for the best here on November 5th. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again after that. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you, and y'all have a great day.
You too, sir.
I hear.
Folks, we're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio. Please stay with us.